What's up, guys, and welcome to Press A Repeatedly. Justin Thomaso here with Christopher Gold.
Hey, hey.
Chris, is that Faye on your coffee table behind you?
Yes, it is. It is not a full container of Faye.
I was going to say, that should belong in the refrigerator.
I promise you, that Faye has long ago been eaten. No, it is an empty container of Faye sitting there. I'm actually using it for, for trash-related purposes, like for putting like some of my I'm diabetic. That's not a secret on the show. So some of my like extra diabetes supplies, they can go in one of those containers, and then I can, once it gets filled up, tape it up and then chuck it in the trash.
Got you.
Yeah,
well.
So that's why I'm saving it. That's why it's there. But no. Yeah, God, can you imagine? Like, I just have a whole tub of Greek yogurt, and I'll just sit watching TV or something. I just have a spoon. All.
Just imagine you coming home from work in like a wife beater and boxers, putting on the Golden Girls, grab a nice gallon of Faye yogurt, take a couple bites, and then just fall asleep and leave the yogurt just on the coffee table.
Yeah, just say, you got a friend traveling down the road and back again. And I'm like shoveling spoonfuls, and I'm like, oh, Blanche, you are such a bitch.
All right, well, now we know how you spent your weekend.
Yeah, that's, a day in the life of, behind the scenes of PAR podcast.
Yeah, I'm not even going to try to make a transition here, but Chris, what are we talking about today?
Justin, we are talking about our current favorite Nintendo video game system. That is the Nintendo Switch. And we are kind of speculating on, there's talk about a different type of Switch coming, a revision and upgrade coming down maybe this year. If not this year, maybe next year. So we're going to spend some time kind of speculating what sort of revisions we would like to see, some things that we think are going to come along when Nintendo revises the Switch, which, knowing Nintendo's history, we're going to see multiple versions of the Switch at some point. That's just how they work. So we're just going to kind of think about, hey, what would we like to see in a new, improved, Nintendo Switch?
Yeah, they have a lot of options here, what they can do, things they can change. Like you said, it's definitely going to happen. If you just look at the 3DS and how many different revisions of that came out, and the 2DS and the new 3DS and the new 2DS and the XL, and there's just so much. And now that the 3DS is pretty much out of the picture, with the Switch being the sole console, we're absolutely going to start seeing a whole bunch of different revisions. So, yeah, just like Chris said, we're going to, speculate what's going to be down the line, what they're going to do, what will entice us to, purchase another one if we already have one. We'll see.
Yeah. Which, that's... that would be kind of a big ask, especially if they still cost $300 a pop. But, a lot of people are willing to spend the money on multiple systems. So, who knows? But, yeah, we'll be talking about that a little bit later on. But for right now, it's been a couple weeks since our last episode. We've been playing a lot of video games. So let's just kick things right off. Justin, what are you playing?
All right, yes. What are we playing? What am I playing specifically?
Quit stalling. That feel when you forgot to play any video games. Yeah, I've played so
Webster's
many games.
defines video games. So I have been playing a bunch. As you mentioned earlier about how the Switch is, pretty much our favorite system right now. I was just recently thinking, I haven't touched my PlayStation 4 in months. I think the last time I played it was when I beat Red Dead Redemption 2, which was back in November. And,
yeah, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, it is, middle of March as we record this. So, yeah. That did not change again this week, but I just was thinking about it as I saw the dust collecting on it. But I picked up a couple indie games this week, a couple new indie games this week.
Nice.
Let's see. I think it was last week I picked up the new Toe Jam and Earl game, Toe Jam and Earl Back in the Groove.
Oh, hell yeah. Nice.
Yeah. So I saw a while ago that was in the works as a Kickstarter. Thought it'd be really cool, see what they would do, but I kind of didn't follow it too much. But I was looking on some game sites and saw that it was coming out in the beginning of March, and I was like, wow, I completely forgot about this. I'm totally gonna pick it up. It's like $20. It's on like all the platforms, I think. And Chris, have you ever played the original for Sega Genesis or like the sequel?
I had not, but I heard a lot about it, and it was considered like just one of the most 90s of possible games to have ever come out. Like, if you look at the art style of the game, like, it just screams 90s.
Yeah, it's super 90s, and the new game is no different. They absolutely delve right into that stuff again. I never played it as a kid because I never owned the Sega Genesis, but I was always aware of it. I thought the characters were really cool. They're like these funky like aliens, that love like all 90s culture and stuff. And
Of course.
I always wanted to play as a kid, but I never got around to it. A few years ago, I downloaded the original off of a Genesis emulator, and I was like, all right, cool. I get to finally play this game. And I don't remember too much. I remember I started playing it. It was weird as hell. I had no clue what I was supposed to do. There was like no direction. And I played it for like 5 minutes, and then I turned it off and never played it again. And that was my last interaction with Toe Jam and Earl. So
Your last and only interaction with Toe Jam and
yeah.
Earl.
So I was reading a little bit about the game before I picked it up on the Switch, and I saw that it's a lot like the original, updated, and just like with really cool new graphics and stuff. The original team worked on it, and is very faithful to the first game. And I was curious just to see what it was like giving it a shot, so I picked it up. I think it's only $20. It's not too steep, and from what I recall, it plays a lot like the first game. And basically how it works is you're on these different levels, and all you can do is basically explore and look for items. I think the main story of the game is that you're on a ship that crash landed into Earth, and you need to find all the pieces to put it back together. And each level is like a different just field for you to explore. And you're exploring by shaking trees and like checking behind bushes and like looking behind houses and stuff. You're looking for different items to help you find and locate these ship pieces. The items that you find are like money, food to heal your health bar, and these items called presents. Presents have different abilities to help you kind of get through levels. You don't have an attack as whatever character you choose. I was playing as Toe Jam, but there is no attack button. Basically, all you can do is kind of move out of the way. And the Earthlings, which are like the bad guys, they're all like these kind of zany, really weird designed like enemies.
Right.
They're pretty hilarious. Like there's like an internet troll, like this troll thing that like throws like bad comments at you or something. Like it's got a really good sense of humor. But these guys are all chasing you, and you need to use these presents to help you, basically get away, to hide, to just basically survive through a level to get to the elevator, which will bring you to another level to start searching again for more parts of the ship. It gets really weird because when you pick up a present, you don't know what it does. It just has question marks in front of it. So there are characters on the map that can identify presents for you and tell you what they do, but you have to pay currency, the in-game currency, to unlock that feature so you know what it does. So you have the option at any time to just use a present, even if you don't know what it does. And a lot of times that like can get you into a lot of trouble. Like I was just like, oh, I'm in a tight spot. I got all these like Earthlings coming at me. I don't know what to do. I'm just gonna use this present. It turns out the present I used was rocket boots, and it like
Oh
launched me
shit.
off the side of the screen,
Oh
and like,
no.
yeah. How the levels are laid out is like basically imagine like different floors of like a very high building,
Mm-hmm.
and if you fall off the side, you fall down to the level you were before,
Ah.
and the controls aren't great. Uh, it's a little hard to get used to movement. The Earthlings are very frustrating, and the higher up you go, the more of them there are, the more damage they do, and you're gonna keep getting knocked down a lot back to earlier levels. So that gameplay mechanic is definitely a little bit frustrating there.
That's super frustrating. And you don't know like you get the presents, but you don't know what's in them or what they do until you actually open them.
Right. Or if you, I think how it works is if you already identified one, if you got that same one again, it would tell you what it did. But there's so many presents that, like, for
That's
most of the time, you don't know what it does.
that's lame. Especially like it like for me that would discourage me from actually using the presents because what if you get like a bad present like those rocket boots like that sounds cool but that actually sucks like I'd be so mad like are you kidding me like I get punished for using this item in the game like oh yeah that I'm not a fan of that doesn't sound cool.
Yeah, I would say most of the presents are good things, like a tornado to keep the bad guys away, or like invincibility, or a teleportation thing, or show the elevator on the map, like that kind of stuff that really helps you out. But I guess every once in a while there's something bad. Um, the game design is just it's very strange. It's weird that they don't really tell you how everything works. You kind of have to figure it out. But it's also weird where like you literally aren't really doing anything except for walking around and like looking for items and hope you can find a ship piece on one level. You're just trying to stay
Right.
alive, trying to avoid all these weird Earthlings, and that's pretty much the entire game. I guess you're supposed to keep going as far as you can to see if you can get all the 20 ship parts or whatever before you get a game over, which I think is like 3 deaths or whatever.
Ugh.
Um,
So
yeah,
they have like a live system.
yeah, and
So
I believe the levels are randomly generated. I'm not 100% sure on that, um, but yeah, it's definitely weird. Apparently, that's a lot how the first game was played. What's cool is I didn't try this, but the game is multiplayer. You can play a local co-op or even online co-op with somebody, and
Interesting.
you can explore the levels together. Um, I don't know how that would work. I don't know if it would be kind of tough to maneuver or keep track of everybody as you're going. But it's. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it either. um,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. It's really kind of hard to explain too. If you're looking for a really weird experience, I would say check it out.
Yeah, it sounds like the game design philosophy is something that was pretty rampant, especially in games from those like the Genesis, the NES, SNES era, back when games were just kind of like getting their foothold on, oh, what is good video game design? Like there were a lot of games like, I mean, I hate to say it, but like Mega Man or Sonic, franchises like that where the levels were all just kind of like, oh, you have to play through it, figure out what it is you need to do, and then as you replay it more often, then you can get better at it. But nothing was ever like intuitive in the actual level. It was just like, oh, let's throw a lot of cheap shit at you that will like ruin everything. And, you'll just have to you'll just have to know, oh, like it kills you instantly, and you're like, oh, I guess that's there. And then the next time you come back, you know to avoid it.
Yeah,
And it sounds like that's like Toe Jam and Earl. The modern game is very similar to the original game, which sounds like it was kind of copying that same core design philosophy which is very frustrating. Thankfully games have evolved and moved on from that type of thing where the games will now teach you through like their level design, and they won't be as cheap with you as they were back then. But yeah, it's just kind of frustrating that they didn't really update back in the groove for modern day standards.
Yeah, I heard people say that the gameplay feels a bit dated, and that's 100% true. It's very that's strangely confusing at some points, and you kind of wonder why they programmed it this way. But it is keeping it faithful to the original, so I guess that is appealing to some people.
To the
What really,
the,
yeah,
yeah, the hardcore Toe Jam and Earl fans.
yeah. What really drew me into wanting to get this game was the art style and the character design. It looks awesome. It looks like a really cool mix of like a Saturday morning cartoon or comic strip with big thick outlines, and there's talk bubbles and stuff. Just a really cool design that I love. That really just kind of drew me in just visually. That made me interested.
Nice.
So gameplay isn't everything sometimes, because the gameplay is definitely strange. But there were a lot of other things I did enjoy about the game. And if that sounds like anything you would be interested in, I would suggest picking it up if you really like the first one or anything like that. Otherwise, if you're not sure, maybe watch some videos. But just know it's weird. It's weird in a fun way, and it's also weird in a frustrating way.
All right, awesome. What else you got?
Yep, so that was Toe Jam and Earl. Okay, so I also picked up this puzzle game that just recently came out that, Chris, I was teasing you earlier on this, but this is one of the most creative and unique puzzle games I've ever seen before.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if you heard of this before, but this game that just came out is called Baba Is You.
Baba Is You.
Yes.
The name sounds familiar, but I can't say I know really anything about it. What is this game?
Yeah, so I think it just came out on Thursday, if I'm not mistaken. You've probably seen people talking about it on Twitter, because that's where I saw it. People were really excited about this game on Twitter. And I, wasn't sure at all what it was about. I saw a couple screenshots of this little sheep character, and just basically moving to reach a flag, in a puzzle game format. And I was like, all right, I don't really see what the big deal at this game is, but I'm looking for something else to play. Let me pick it up. So yeah, it's that. I'm not sure what type of puzzle games you would call this, but it's basically you have your character, you have to get them to the goal, right? And there are multiple levels, and they're all different, but that's kind of basically the same idea of how to progress, is to get your character to the goal. Your character is a little white sheep. I guess his name is Baba, and that's where the title of the game comes from. Baba Is You.
Nice.
Okay. Now,
that's self-explanatory.
Yeah. So I had no clue how the game worked. I just picked it up and started playing. And the first level is there's Baba, and on the left side, and on the right side is a flag, and in the middle is a rock. And basically, you figure it out pretty quickly. You move Baba towards the rock, you push the rock out of the way, and then you move over to the flag, and you win. You made it to the flag. Simple enough, right? But then you start to notice what else is going on in this game. Because not only is there Baba on the screen, the rock on the screen, and the flag on the screen, there's also text on the screen. Text like Baba is you, okay? Rock is push, and flag is win. So it's kind of like instructions of what you have to do.
Uh-huh.
Okay? Here's where it gets crazy. You can move, because those text blocks are on the screen with you,
Mm-hmm.
You can push and rearrange those text blocks into different sentences that change the gameplay of the game, basically. So, for example, Baba is you, okay? Imagine those as 3 blocks on the screen, okay? And underneath that, rock is push. You, as Baba, can move the word push up and replace, let's say this. As Baba, I come down, I move the word rock up towards where the word Baba is, and basically push rock in place of Baba, so it says rock is you. Then I become the rock, and I move the rock on the screen,
Oh shit!
and Baba doesn't do anything. You
Wow.
can. There are multiple ways to basically solve the puzzles, right? Like you could make Baba is win, and you automatically win the level, or you know,
That's so weird.
yeah. And then like later it gets a little bit harder, and like the word and is there, so you could do Baba is you and win. So like you'll get an instant win that way.
Oh
Or
shit!
there was one level where it was wall is stop, and so like there was this giant wall on the screen that if you moved into it, you couldn't move past it because the wall is stop. So I was playing with Butch and Zul were watching me, and we were like, I wonder if this will work. Let's try this. And we made it wall is you. And then I was moving as the entire wall on the level, like across the screen. And I just moved the wall over to the flag and won that way.
That's awesome. That's
It's
hilarious.
it's crazy. You can just like you change the rules of the levels and you change what different objects do, and just try and figure out how to. It's not even just get to the flag, because you can change the win condition. You can make it rock is win, or wall is win, or water is win, and then you can just walk Baba into the water and win that way. Like it's crazy. It is so interesting
Holy
and
shit.
fun and challenging. Some of them are really, really creative and intense. And there's a few levels that I've already had to skip because I don't know how to beat them yet. It's one of the most interesting and creative things I've seen, and like I'm just so stoked to play like more. It's crazy.
Wow. That's incredible. Like I hadn't heard about this game. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, it's just like it was so much better going into it not knowing how the game worked, because when we first figured it out, we're like, wait, what if we move this here? Would that? Oh my god! Like it worked. Like that realization of what you can do in this game, it was like collectively blew our minds. It was awesome.
Wow, that's crazy. What systems is it for? Is it
I'm
for
playing it
all
on Switch right now, but I'm pretty sure it's on everything. It's
Okay.
only $15. It's a really good deal. Looks like there's tons of levels. I've been playing for maybe a little over an hour, and I've only been through maybe like 20 levels. There's a giant world map of different levels you can select, and it just looks like there's so much to it. There's just the farther you go, the more things are thrown at you. The harder they get, the more creative you have to be. Like I said, there's multiple different ways to try and win a level. So you might solve a level one way, where I might have solved it a different way. It's super interesting, and I highly recommend this to anybody who's any sort of a puzzle game fan. Like you probably haven't seen anything like this before, and you should absolutely check it out.
I do love a good puzzle game. I like to have my noggin challenged. So yeah, I'll have to look into it and pick it up. That sounds like a lot of fun. I like the freedom that it gives to you. That sounds really interesting.
Yeah, it's I can't even really explain some of the ones that we were doing to figure out. Like there's one with water, like a path of water which is blocking you from the flag, and then eventually you can move some text around, because one of the options is float, like objects are floating in the sky. So you can make a sentence that says water is float, and the entire like river of water just starts floating in the sky, and then you can just scoot right under it and get to the flag. Like it's
Wow.
crazy.
That's hilarious. I can't believe I hadn't heard about this game. Like it sounds awesome.
Yeah. It's like you can become the flag and move the flag to Baba if you wanted to. Like it's so interesting.
Oh my god, that's wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's crazy. I'm glad I having such a great time with it. Yeah, that wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what to say.
I hope you pick it up. It's really cool. That's pretty much all I got.
It's really cool. That's it. They put that on the back of the box.
Yeah, I kind of wish I was playing it right now.
Well, too bad.
So yeah, those are the two main new games I played. The past couple weeks. I played some more Smash and stuff. What else? Some more War Groove, but yeah, I mean that's pretty much the crux of it. Plus my indie arcade, which we'll get to a little bit later. But for now, Chris, what are you playing?
All right, so just like you, I've been playing more Smash. Haven't really gotten too far. Still playing through the game modes. I'm still unlocking people. Been practicing a lot with my boy, my special child Yoshi. Yeah, I was over at your brother's place for Mario Day. And we had like a couple matches with each other.
Those are some serious matches, man.
Those were some great matches. I shut out Nick that one time. He was so mad about that too. He was like, rematch. I want a rematch. And then he turned around and he kicked my ass after that.
Yeah.
I beat the shit out of him. Then he turned around and then in the rematch he beat the shit out of me. Like he got his revenge. But it was still very satisfying to have that one brief fleeting moment of yeah, I just whooped him.
Fighting you guys is such like I just panic so much. I feel like my hands get so sweaty. Like every move has to be perfect, and if you miss one thing, you're like probably about to die. Like it's just so intense.
It's very stressful, and speak for yourself, man. Like playing you is always very intense. You are extremely good with Luigi. It is always a challenge fighting you.
I think we're all are very good with our mains, and we get better just because we keep trying to beat each other.
Yeah, it's always fun. It's always a blast. So yeah, I've just been playing a lot of Smash for Mario Day. Before I went to your brother's place, it was Mario Day, so naturally I was very, very much in a Mario mood. So I hopped back on my Wii U, and I decided to play a trio of classic Mario games. The first one was the original, the one game I don't think I've ever not owned in my entire life, the original Super Mario Brothers.
Sure.
The one that kicked us all off. And I only played that for like a few minutes, but then I was like, this isn't what I had logged on here to play. I had wanted to play the last game I'm going to mention here, but as I was there, I got distracted. I played for like a minute. I was like, this is fine. Because I mean, what can I say to describe Super Mario Brothers? I mean, you know what Super Mario Brothers is like. Everyone listening knows what it's like. I don't have to go into any details. So
yeah, they run really fast. They collect a lot of rings. They free the animals from the evil Dr. Robotnik. We all know how Super Mario Bros.
Yeah, we know how Super Mario Brothers goes. Yeah, you get the power-ups from each boss at the end.
Yeah.
So that's Super Mario Brothers. Then I hopped out, and on my way to the game that I'd wanted to play, I found Super Mario Brothers 3. And I was like, oh, this is another good classic Mario game, perfect for Mario Day. And I hopped on, and now I was in the Wii U, right? So the Wii U, whenever you like kind of quit out of a game, it had save points, like it saved whatever your progress was. Apparently, I had started a playthrough of Super Mario Brothers 3 a long time ago, and I just completely forgot about it. Here, I was in the middle of the water world. And by the middle, I mean at the very beginning. And Justin, you know how much I detest water levels in video games, especially early video games. Those water levels are the bane of my existence. But yep. I'm sorry, my cat is literally walking right across my monitor right now as I'm looking at you. Sophia, move, please.
Somebody wants attention.
Yes, she does. Yes, I see you. So I hopped on Super Mario Brothers 3, and I was like, oh boy, let me see how this goes. I had like 11 lives at the start of World 2, at level 2, and I don't think I gamed over. I had a game over because it was like I was trying to like figure out like, okay, I gotta jump, I gotta grade. And when you're playing a Mario game, especially a classic Mario platformer, I don't know if this experience is the same with you as it is with me, but I get into a groove when I'm playing a Mario game. Like I'll breeze through levels, I'll be like, yeah, I'm doing great, blah blah blah. But when I hit a point where where like, oh, you know, I die in bunches. Like when it rains, it pours for me in terms of Mario dying. Like so I went through every single life that I had left, and yeah, I got a game over. So not my proudest moment playing Super Mario Brothers 3, but I mean, it's a classic. Again, what can I say about Super Mario Brothers 3? Yeah. It's a perfect game. There are no flaws in that game as far as I'm concerned. So finally, I hopped out of it, and I went to the one game that I had been meaning to play, that I felt like I owed it to myself to play on this blessed of Mario days, and that was Super Mario RPG: The Legend of the Seven Stars.
All right. So, were you starting from the beginning, or did you pick up a save file here?
I picked up at a save file, and I was actually in the area. Like, I was actually surprised. Like, I was kind of far along in the game. I was level like 12, 13 with everyone. I was in the area where you're going from Seaside Town and you're in Land's End, and then you're going from Land's End to Monstro Town.
Okay.
So I was in that section. So I was just kind of like wandering around. I was actually in the middle of a fight. Like when I loaded up this save point, I was actually in the middle of like it's just a regular enemy battle. I was like, oh, I guess past Chris was like, you know what? I don't feel like fighting this. I'm done. And I like quit. And now years later, I was like, oh hey, I'm in the middle of a fight. But I mean, Super Mario RPG, like for anyone who doesn't know the history, this was the game that really made me a huge Nintendo fan. Justin, you were the one who years ago sat me down, because I used to be very big into Sony. You used to, of course, be big into Nintendo, as you still are to this day. And we were arguing which was better, and you sat me down and you're like, you know what? Here, just play this game. And it was Super Mario RPG. And it's like, and then you tell me that Nintendo sucks. And I played this game and I was like, oh, holy shit. Like, this is amazing.
I think I literally saw like the fire in your eyes like turn on when you started playing Super Mario RPG.
Yeah, I was just like, oh my god, because I had never played anything that was like so self-aware, so funny, so just well put together. It was just incredible. And I'm in the middle of this fight, and I've got Mario, obviously, and Peach and Bowser are in my party. at this point. And it's funny because like I'm fighting everyone, and Bowser's move at this point, he has hurling gloves, and his move is literally he just picks up Mario and just chucks him at the enemy. And like Mario, like when you pick him up, he's literally like squirming and struggling as he's holding him up, and then he just punches it, just throws him, and he just goes, just hits the enemy and bounces right back.
I love that so much.
Like that game was just so good and so funny. Like just the writing in it was just fantastic. Yeah, the characters had such life in it. There really hasn't been a game like before or since Mario RPG. It's just such a unique look. It's a unique style. Like I know we've had RPGs in the Super Mario universe since. Like we've had the Mario and Luigi games, we've had the Paper Mario games, but they're just not the same as the original Super Mario RPG. That was the game that introduced the mechanic where if you hit the attack button at the exact right moment while your character is in the attack animation, you can create like a bonus effect where you can, like if you're getting attacked, you can dodge enemies' attacks, or you can like reduce the damage. If you hit the button at the right moment when you attack, then you can actually attack again to do extra damage. Which that was a very unique concept at the time, which Mario RPGs have copies since then. But oh man, like I was just playing this game and I was like, oh, like it just took me back. I was like, this, like everyone owes it to themselves to play that game at least once. It's not perfect though by any means, because I was playing it and there was a lot of like there were frame rate issues. The game was like there was a lot happening on the screen at some points, and the game would slow down a lot. So there are some like little technical hiccups with the game, but I can very easily overlook those because the game it's just such a blast to play. Like I will never ever have anything negative to say about that game.
I thought was really interesting about Super Mario RPG that I don't think it's really talked about too much. Is that how when you're in the overworld, it also tries to retain a lot of the platformer style of original Mario games. Like there are some platforming challenges in the games, just as you're moving through levels, and it can totally be argued that those areas are kind of tough to control, and the isometric camera angle is a little bit hard to judge, like depth and jumps, because I know there's like a couple spots in the game in particular. Mainly the one when you're later in the game when you're jumping on the paratroopers' shells trying to climb the side of the mountain. I remember that being particularly tough. And another area earlier where you're on these like rotating flowers and you have to kind of like jump and like time those perfectly. Like those two are extremely frustrating.
That's actually exactly where I'm at right now, where I was on those rotating flowers and jumping across. And that did take a little bit of figuring out, because it looked like, oh, Mario is facing towards the platform. This is the time to jump. And I'll hit the jump button, and he'll go flying off in the complete wrong direction. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, it's not perfect, and those parts are a little bit frustrating. But I've never really seen like another RPG have that kind of platforming aspect in it as well. I can't even really think of any RPGs where you can jump when you're just moving around the overworld. Yeah, so that was pretty unique as well.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. Like the game maintains that feel of a Mario game, even between levels. Like it's especially like the game was a collab between Nintendo and Square. It was actually, I think it was the last project that Square worked on before they jumped over to Sony. And it was just like such a great last hurrah for Square on the Nintendo system, because it like has the great gameplay and the charm. Like you can see a lot of elements of Square, like especially old school Square, in this game, as well as the old school like Nintendo charm, as well as the characters, obviously.
Yeah, totally.
So yeah, it's just such a great marriage of those two, and yeah, I love that game to death. It's very near and dear to my heart.
Yeah, I
So
totally agree.
yeah, so yeah, I kept it a little old school. You know, honored the great Mario on the blessed of Mario days.
Yep.
S-
Yeah,
So yeah,
we had a great little Mario Day party over at Nick's, and just kind of hung out and played some games, played some Smash, played some Mario Kart. So yeah, that was definitely a lot of fun. Celebration for, you know, it's kind of crazy to say, but he is like one of the most influential characters in our lives. You know what I mean?
yeah, like especially like video games, but I mean just in general. I forget when it was, but I know at some point Mario almost became more recognizable the world over than Mickey Mouse,
Yeah,
which
which is
is
insane. Think about.
yeah. I mean, you gotta love Mario. I mean, you have no choice. You have to love Mario. All right, so that was all I had been playing, and Justin, that was most of all what you'd been playing, but not all. That's because we still have one last game, and that is the Indie Arcade.
Indie Arcade.
If you remember, last time I gave Justin the game Wandersong to sing his way through. So, Justin, tell us all about it.
Yeah, so this week was definitely the week of super creative gameplay that I've never really seen before, and that absolutely continued with Wandersong. We talked about it last episode during the Indie Arcade description, but basically it's a singing adventure game. You take the role of a singing bard who basically finds out... Game's definitely a little weird and goofy. You find out early on that the universe is ending.
Oh,
The
I hate when that happens.
yeah. The creator of the universe has decided it's time to just basically hit the reset button and is going to completely just wipe away all existence and start from scratch. I think the main character basically sees the spirit in a dream that tells him that. So naturally he does not want that to happen, so he's going to try and stop it. And the spirit kind of likes his attitude that he's going to try and stop this. So spirit basically tells him the only way he could stop this is to sing the Earth Song. And to learn the Earth Song, he has to learn 7 different parts of the song and basically put it all together and sing it to communicate with like this supernatural being who's going to reset the universe. So you're basically on an adventure to find these 7 parts of the song. The game is super weird and goofy. It's got a really great sense of humor. It reminds me a lot of like the Mario and Luigi games, or just basically any adventure game that's very dialogue heavy, but the dialogue is pretty witty and fun. Every character you meet has a really great personality. They're all pretty original. The graphical style of the game is kind of like this cutout paper crafty look. The characters are flat, almost like in Paper Mario. When they turn around and like it looks like they're just completely flat. Like you can see.
Oh yeah. Like they turn around and it's like they're the other side of them is like a flipped image.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly. Yeah.
Okay, I get what you're saying.
So that's how that works. It's got like light pastel-y colors. Just like a really fun environment, I guess you could describe it as. It's got great music, of course. It seems like a very lengthy game. I put a lot of time into this one. I played almost 3 hours, I think, of Wandersong, and I've only got one of the 7 parts of the songs I have to collect.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, I feel like this is you're going to get a lot of bang for your buck here with this game. Um, the basic gameplay is where my one caveat, I guess, I would have of the game is that it's not that it, exciting, I guess is the best way to put it. So how it works is when you sing, you use the left stick to hold different notes, and when you hold the left stick, a jog wheel spins around your character, and there are 8 different colors you can select, and each color represents a part of the musical scale. So, like, for example, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do.
I know the scales.
Yeah. And, whenever you point your cursor to, the character sings. And it's actually really fun to mess around with because when you point the cursor up, the character also, like, sings and, like, holds his hands up, like, to the direction that you're pointing. And, like, they'll be like,
Nice.
And you can do that as much as you want and be as annoying as you want. And the game is self-aware, so sometimes when you're like around different NPCs and you're just kind of messing around and singing, they'll be like, "Please stop! Like, you're so annoying right now!" Like, they will just stop you and yell at you for like making so much noise.
That's funny. I like that.
And there's some really cool creative parts of the gameplay where when you're exploring through different parts of levels, sometimes your singing controls different things how you get through the level. Like, you can change the direction of the wind by what notes you sing to help you get across platforms. You can control like elevators and platforms with your singing, because not only is your singing like musical notes, but it's also a direction for those platforms to move. So it helps you kind of control like parts of the level. So that's kind of creative.
Okay.
But mostly the singing is kind of just like a Simon Says mini game. Like, you'll meet characters that like want to sing a song or something, and like to communicate with them, they'll be like, red, red, blue, and then you sing red, red, blue, and then it's back to them and they sing blue, purple, orange. So you sing blue, purple, orange, and then back to them and they sing green, green, red. You sing green, green, red, and then okay, you've completed it, and now you get to talk to that character. And that's cool, but like it's really tiresome after a while. And that's pretty much how you interact with a lot of different characters and like enemies, I guess you could say, of the game. A lot of obstacles you reach are solved this way. Just that like kind of Simon Says style of, I guess, pattern and repeat, and it can get a little boring.
That's annoying. It's also a little disappointing.
It could just be me being a little bit too hard on it. And that's really the only problem I have with the game, because everything else I love. I mean, the story is fun, like the characters are great, the writing is really funny. It's super silly. I'm at a part now where you meet these pirates that just basically are the pirates that love coffee, and they break it down to this gigantic song about how much they love coffee, and like each part of the pirate crew has their own part of the song that they sing, and like it's like this really long cutscene just singing about how much they love coffee.
Well, I love coffee too. I don't blame them.
No, yeah, me too. I don't blame them. But then your character has coffee for the first time ever, and he goes crazy and is like singing like crazy and like bouncing up all over the walls of the ship, and then it like fades to the next morning, and the crew are basically telling him like, "Hey, dude, you were out of control last night. Like, you were never allowed to have coffee again."
Ah.
Yeah, there's cool like little, I guess, mini games where like, you're the part I'm at now. We have to sail the pirate ship to different islands to look for clues to get to the next part of the Earthsong, and you bring up the map that shows where the ship is, and then you can move the ship by like singing different directions. And when you sing on like the bottom of the screen, like the pirate crew pops up and they're singing with you as you're moving across the map. So that's pretty great.
Nice.
There's a dedicated dance button for your character, and you can learn different dances as you progress through the game, and they're all super silly and great, and you can dance at any time you want. So it could be like in the middle of a cutscene when you're talking to somebody and it's like pretty serious, and your character's just like dancing like an idiot like while this is happening, and it's so great.
I love it.
And what's even better is sometimes during a conversation, like maybe something sad or like annoying is happening to the main character, so his normal smiling face will go to like a face of concern, but then you can still dance, so he's like just like look his stone stoic face while dancing like an idiot, and it's so funny, man.
I love that. Oh god.
Yeah. But yeah, overall, I think it's great. A lot of people really love this game. A lot of high praise for it. Personally, I wish there was a little bit more to the gameplay aspect of it. Maybe some sort of, combat system or something to make it a little bit more interesting and engaging. But, I mean, that's just a small caveat. I think the overall package is very unique and fun. A game based just solely on a bard singing is pretty original, and just the whole experience of the game and the characters you meet along the way are really interesting. And for any fan of like an adventure game, that's heavy in dialogue but is a lot of fun. I would definitely recommend it.
All right, awesome. See, I don't always give you shit.
No, not at all. And the art style kind of reminds me of Night in the Woods a little bit too, how they have like the text bubbles and stuff and how they're talking. And I really enjoyed that as well. So game's just it's a pleasure to look at as well.
All right, awesome. Yeah, I'm really glad that you enjoyed it so much. Like I know it wasn't like your favorite. Like the gameplay could have been tweaked a little bit better, but overall it sounds like it was a positive experience.
Yeah, you said last week that you wanted to pick it up as well, and I really think you should, because I think you will absolutely love this game. It's I feel like it's right up your alley.
All right, awesome.
Cool.
All right, so now it comes to the part where I have anxiety during our recording. It is now time for you to assign me the Indie Arcade.
I have news for you, Chris, that I guess I'll break now.
Oh god.
There was more fallout than you think after you assigned me My Horse Prince.
How much? Like how much of a grudge can you possibly hold?
Well, it wasn't me per se. Let's just say that after you assigned me My Horse Prince, 2 people who will remain nameless sent me lists of terrible games for me to pick from for you.
Okay.
They did a lot of research.
I'd like to make a grievance here. I'd like to file a grievance, okay? Whenever I get assigned a terrible game from you, no one helps me out. No one is like, "Oh, Chris, what a shame. Here, let's send, here are terrible games you could give to Justin. This will really kick his ass." Never have it. Once, Bill told me I should give you I Am Bread. Which you didn't even
loving it.
Yeah, which you didn't even hate. That is a one time it happened. But every time I, God forbid, decide to give you a game that maybe you feel like, oh, I don't enjoy this so much. People are tripping over themselves. Oh, Justin, here, give Chris, Shit Simulator 1999. Make him play this.
Look, I can't control what the fans do or what they don't do, okay? But one thing I know is I should never look a gift horse in the mouth.
or a gift horse prince in the mouth.
See, now you're making me want to use it.
I mean, I'll play whatever you're about to throw at me, but I just want it on the record that I don't appreciate how much help you get in choosing
right.
these games.
I just wanted to let you know that these options are on the table for me. I will not be using them this week. Because I enjoyed Wandersong so much, I decided it would be too cruel for me to dive into those gifts I was given. But I'll keep them on retainer for now.
Oh, great.
And I did a little bit of research for you this week. And Chris, I remember that you, I think it was last year, picked up Rocket League and really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's a fun game.
Well, my indie arcade assignment for you this week is on PlayStation Network.
Okay.
It is developed by 505 Games. It is on sale for $7.49, which is a pretty good price. And that game is called Laser League.
Laser League.
Laser League. Vaporize the opposition in the light-speed future of sport. An all-new multiplayer experience. Easy to pick up, but near impossible to put down. Laser League starts as a simple test of your reflexes, but soon becomes a strategic showdown with deep team tactics. Combine your class abilities, dominate the pitch, eliminate your opponents, and claim your place on the podium. Beat mastery challenges and level up to unlock hundreds of kits and customizations. Rise up the leaderboards and become a sports legend of 2150. Laser League, like nothing you've played before. So basically, Laser League is a super fun, addictive team-based sport game that is quite similar to Rocket League. I'm reading a lot of comments that people that kind of fell off of Rocket League and started playing this, and it actually looks really fun. And I know that you enjoyed Rocket League a lot when you were playing it, so I think you will have a grand old time with Laser League.
Yeah, I'm looking at honestly, I'm looking at the gameplay, at the soundtrack for it right now, and it I forget where I saw it, but it looks very familiar. I've definitely seen this be played somewhere before. Honestly, even after seeing the gameplay videos and even watching this trailer right now, I'm still curious how you actually play it. I get the goal is to create these little laser walls that can go across the room, and they can rotate and they spin and they travel across the room as they spin, and you have to kind of trap your opponent to getting hit by your laser. But I don't know how it actually works. How does this work? I'm just so curious about this.
Yeah, it looks like 3-on-3. Looks like there's two goals. A lot like I guess the basic Rocket League setup. But yeah, like you said, it looks like you can build some walls to kind of block. You can looks like you can attack other players and knock them out of the game. The whole aesthetic reminds me of Tron or something like that.
It looks very Tron-like.
Yeah, like a futuristic, yellow versus blue kind of a grid-based sports game. But I mean, I don't know. It looks high action. It looks pretty fun. And from everything I'm reading, it's super addictive. So I think you'll have a lot of fun playing this.
I think I will too. It looks super interesting. I don't know if this is showing arenas full of people watching the game and cheering or whatever. I think that's a bit of a stretch for this game right now. Maybe it is an esport. I don't know. I don't know anything about esports anymore. I'm an old man. I'm completely out of touch. But yeah, it looks really interesting, and I will be excited to play it.
All right. Well, with that being said, what do you say we take a quick break, and when we come back, we discuss possibilities of Switch revisions.
Oh, mama.
welcome back to Press A repeatedly. Justin Tomasello here with Chris Gold, and Chris, it is time for us to discuss possibilities of a future Switch revision. Now, Switch is obviously the hottest console out there right now. It just hit its 2-year anniversary at the beginning of this month. We haven't seen any revisions yet, but we all know they're coming. It's just kind of the format for this sort of thing. And, I feel like there's just a lot of options here, for, Nintendo to go ahead and design something that can be either just a variation of what it looks now or almost entirely a whole new idea of the console. I guess the first question I would ask you, Chris, is there possibly anything they could do right now that would have you purchase a second Switch?
No.
All right. Thanks for answering that question.
Do you want me to elaborate?
I mean, I'm with you. I don't think there's anything that could be done that would make me spend another $300 unless
that for me, that's the sticking point, because I know that whatever new version they're going to come out with, unless they decided to reduce the price to maybe $200, yes. But even then, I feel like that's still a hefty amount of change for a second console, especially when, I still have my original Switch. I still have the OG. It's still good. I don't really need to change it or upgrade it in any way. Now, for people out there who have that sort of disposable income, or who haven't made the jump yet to getting the Nintendo Switch, I'm sure that amount of money is still pretty reasonable. Excuse me. It's still reasonable to pick up the system, but for someone like me, my disposable income is pretty limited, and my Switch is still good. So even with a lot of these revisions that we're going to discuss momentarily, for me personally, I don't think it would really persuade me to pick up a whole second system.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't usually buy revisions of systems either. I still had, I went through the entire 3DS life cycle with my original 3DS. I never got the XL. I never got the new 3DS. As much as I wanted to, because they do seem pretty cool, especially the new 2DS XL, as stupid of a name that is. I think the design of that system is awesome. Mm-hmm. It's the most recent revision of the 3DS family of consoles, and I have come close to maybe almost pulling the trigger on it, but ultimately never did. But that's a personal thing for you and me. I know plenty of people that don't mind shelling out the money to have different consoles. I know there are collectors who enjoy collecting different styles of the 3DSs, like the limited edition Majora's Mask one or something like that. To have them in their personal collection. So I guess we could start with that. Maybe a personal Switch designs, right? Let's say a Triforce design that's on the Joy-Cons, it's on the dock, it's on the back of the system. Maybe it comes with a bag, some sort of cool, unique design. I know the most recently there was a Smash Brothers system that came out that had that cool Smash design on the dock and on the Joy-Cons and stuff. Those sort of revisions I could see people buying them, and I think they're great also for people who have not yet picked up a Switch and are maybe waiting for something to entice them a little bit more. I think that could really pull in a lot of sales that way.
Right. I know it was something that a lot of people have been talked about, was changeable plates, changeable face plates almost, where you could change out the actual Joy-Con design, the Switch system itself. I know they have different things, they have covers and little stickers that you can put on the outside of the system to decorate it, but it's not the same as actually like kind of changing out the physical cover of it that was like designed around a specific theme. Like you mentioned, Legend of Zelda. You could have a Mario theme. I mean, they have Yoshi's Crafted World coming out very shortly as we're recording this. They have like Yoshi eggs all over the thing. Metroid. There's a lot of different options that you could have out there. And I know a lot of people like to have those changeable faceplates like they used to back in the day. So I don't know. That's something that I would think that they would include the option to have, or at least they should anyway.
Yeah, I definitely agree, especially with the faceplate point. That's a great point because that was something that was recently shown off with when the new 3DS system came out. If you remember, there was two versions of the new 3DS. There was the new 3DS and the new 3DS XL. Initially, only the new 3DS XL came to America, but Japan and Europe got both versions. And the new 3DS had those changeable faceplates. Like you could take off the back of the system and easily swap it out with a few screws. And there was tons of really cool designs that you could pick up. And that alone almost made me like get one. I was furious that system wasn't coming to North America because I was so into that idea. Eventually, it did come over in some package deals. Like I remember there was like an Animal Crossing bundle that you could get the game and that style of new 3DS together with it. And ultimately I never picked it up. But being able to customly design your Switch to have possibly something that it's just unique and different from a lot of your friends' Switches, I think is a huge appeal. I think kids love that kind of thing. They can make it their favorite color, their favorite characters on it, so that's always a great opportunity, for Nintendo to do to get more sales with these Switch revisions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you sell customizable Switch. You sell the faceplates for different designs. There's a lot of opportunity for them to make some profit on that. And yeah, it's interesting because I don't think I've ever gotten a secondary, getting back to the whole discussion about secondary systems. I had the original DS when that first came out back in 2004, what they nowadays call the fat design. And then I think I had a 3DS XL. That was the version that I had. I didn't adopt the 3DS when it first came out. I waited on that one. But even then, they came out with newer designs of the original DS. There was a DS Lite, the DSi, and all sorts of other revisions to it. And people are like, oh, this one is so much better than the original DS. It's got bigger screen, blah, blah, blah. I still never made the jump. I was like, yeah, my original DS is good enough for me. Same with the 3DS when that came out, and that's how I feel about the Switch now.
Yeah, that's a good point. I also had the original DS for a long time, the DS Fat, and I knew of the DS Lite that was coming out, and I thought it was cool, but I didn't think I needed it. Right? I was like, I'm fine with this system. This works fine. I don't need to buy another one. And then eventually, for one birthday, I think, my brother got me a DS Lite. And, I was like, oh, this is cool, but, what am I going to do with two of these things? I don't really need this. As soon as I started playing the DS Lite, that form factor was just, it fixed so many problems with the original DS. It felt sturdier, it was sleeker, it wasn't as heavy, your hands didn't cramp as much playing it, the picture quality was better, the screens were a little bit bigger, I think. There were so many improvements from that revision that it was totally worth it to me, to have this system. Now, obviously, I got it as a gift, I didn't pay for it, but still, it made me think, okay, maybe there is something to the idea of getting an upgrade to a system that you really love, if it is worth it, if it really improves upon a lot of things that need to be fixed. So that's going to bring us into our next part of this discussion. what, if any, do you think needs to be improved upon in the current version of the Switch?
I feel like a big thing that needs to be focused on, especially for somebody like me who primarily plays the Switch handheld version, is battery life improvement. I feel like
That's an excellent pick.
Yeah, I feel like if they could up the battery life so that people could play the game on the go for longer, that would entice a lot of people to pick it up because I know a lot of people who want to play games for a long time, like the more hardcore quote unquote set. They have poo-pooed the battery life in the Switch ever since it first came out, and I mean it is frustrating to be sitting there playing a game and you're into it for a while, and then you get a little alert in the background that says, "Oh, your battery's getting low," and you're like, "Ah, man, like yeah," because when you're in handheld mode, like I can lie down on my couch and like be playing the system there and just relaxing. And now I have to like get up and go to the Switch and dock it, and then I have to like sit down and like it. I don't know. It's a different experience playing it docked versus handheld, and even if you're traveling or you're on the go, like say for example, you're on a really long flight and you're in the middle of playing a game on that flight, and it's like say a 10-hour flight maybe. All of a sudden, your Switch dies out because it can't last for that whole time. Like that's frustrating because then what are you gonna do now? You're gonna watch some old movie on the in-flight thing? No, I can't do it, man. No, you gotta up that battery life. It needs to be improved.
Yeah, that's probably the most obvious pick. I think that is almost a definite of that will happen on whatever the next revision will be. Some other things I can think of probably aren't anywhere near as big or as important, but just definitely some small things. I know the kickstand. I know a lot of people don't really use it, but it's very flimsy. I think that could be upgraded to like a sturdier thing, maybe relocated to like the center of the console, be a little bit wider, just to be a little bit sturdier. I think that the charging port, which is currently on the bottom of the Switch, I know people are probably having a problem with that. Just basically being able to charge and stand up the system at the same time is kind of impossible unless you have a special like cradle thing to hold it in. So if they can move that charging port to maybe the top of the system or perhaps the back somehow, I think that would be really helpful. The Joy-Cons, I think, as much as I love them, they seem to be having a lot of problems. I know a lot of gamers have had problems with them since the system's initial release. I know Elena in particular has been on the pod talking about her connection issues. I've recently had a battle with Joy-Con drifting, which is when dust gets into underneath the area of the joysticks and can cause some movement when you're not even pressing them, which is incredibly frustrating.
That's really annoying.
Yeah, and I had to end up cleaning that out with a compressed air can, and it's just it is frustrating because something as stupid as that can cause such a problem. Yet these controllers are $80 to pick up. Like,
yeah,
how could something like that slip by like in quality testing?
Yeah, that's ridiculous. Another revision that I feel like they could have for the Joy-Cons. Now, this isn't something that they could necessarily just overhaul the original design, but perhaps have as a secondary option for a lot of gamers out there. I know it's a common complaint about them. Have something, I guess, call it like the Joy-Con Big Boy, where it's you make the Joy-Cons for bigger hands. Because I know that's a very common complaint about the Joy-Cons is they are very teeny tiny, and especially when you're playing multiplayer games where you can take each one and you share them and you turn them on their side. Even me, I'm not a very big person. I'm not the largest human being that's ever lived, but I'm not that small. Even those Joy-Cons are like super teeny tiny in my hands as I'm trying to play these multiplayer games. Have bigger Joy-Cons available. Like, don't replace the original Joy-Cons completely, but just have that option where, hey, if you're a larger person or if you want a bigger system, especially because like for a lot of people, it's hard to have that dexterity to play the little D-pad and the D-pad. It's not that great a D-pad, but to have those 4 buttons and the analog stick, like you can cramp your hands up very easily. Trying to play that. So make it something that's more ergonomic, something that feels more comfortable by letting people play in, just give something bigger. People like bigger.
Yeah, totally. As somebody who is large, I agree.
Yep. I thought of that one specifically for you, big fella.
Okay, so now I guess we can start getting into the actual console style revisions. So we mentioned earlier about we might pick up a second Switch if the price were to drop.
Or
So
if any generous PAR listeners out there wanted to send us a revised Switch, which you can get our details at parpodcast@gmail.com.
Yes, we would gladly accept Switch donations. But yes, so if they were to drop the price to, let's say, $199, right? What kind of sacrifices or changes would they have to make to get it to that realm?
Oh, that's a tough question. I might have to think about that one for a little bit, but what are some of your thoughts?
Yeah, totally. So I think the obvious one to me would be to get rid of the sounds kind of stupid to say, but to get rid of the switching aspects of the system. Instead of being able to play it on the TV and on handheld, create one that is just all one piece. Like the Joy-Cons are permanently attached. It's just a screen. It can't hook up to a dock or anything. It's portable only, essentially. Maybe this has larger battery life now because of that. Maybe it is a little bit bigger. Maybe it's a little bit smaller. The screen is a little bit smaller and a little bit more compact. Maybe it's a clamshell design like the 3DS, so it can go into a pocket. Maybe it's like that weird original 2DS design where it looks like a door stopper or like a blade of an axe,
right?
Where it has like the screen on the top and the buttons on the bottom. But maybe it's made of a cheaper plastic or something. Maybe it's a little bit more like a toy for kids than it is like a system for adults. Maybe like these sort of changes could make a cheaper Switch that can be given out to younger gamers, much like how the 2DS was when it first came out, and help them move more units that way.
Right. I'm glad you brought up the clamshell design because it's something I've seen a lot of people speculating about and really heavily theorizing about a revised Switch. Is it wouldn't necessarily have, I guess, like a clamshell similar to like the 3DS or even the original DS where there was like that gap in between each screen. I think it would just be like a fully like mesh together screen, and then you just fold it together in the middle and just all still runs smoothly across each way. I could absolutely see something like that being implemented down the line. But yeah, that's it's an interesting idea to have like a handheld only version of the Switch. I feel like that idea is probably like the best idea to get it down to $199 and kind of make that sacrifice where you don't have to get the additional dock. Because I mean, you think about like how the Switch is designed right now and how it's priced out. I think that docking station, like you remove the docking station all by itself, and you've pretty much got yourself almost down to that $199 price point.
I think spare docks are like $90 on their own.
Something like that, yeah. So, yeah, right away you've got yourself down there. Now, as for, I guess, like fusing the Joy-Cons with the actual Switch system itself, I guess that would be interesting. I'd want to see like how that would work with the clamshell design when if you like fold it up. Like, would that like fit together if you couldn't take the Joy-Cons off? Because you could the analog sticks might bump into each other and prevent it from closing completely, unless they kind of redesigned it somehow where there was like little holes or something where they could fit into just temporarily.
Right.
Or, even if you could take them off, like you could put I guess you could have everything together like in one pocket, but yeah, I mean, you're kind of bunching everything together in one pocket there. Yeah, that because you've got the two Joy-Cons now, and then you've got the actual Switch system itself. I don't know how handy that would be to carry it around like that, but otherwise, I don't see any better options to really transport the thing. If you're going to carry it in your pocket, like you could certainly carry it around in your carrying case, but that's like a whole extra thing that you now have to lug around with you. Like that's that's not fun or intuitive. So I don't know. Like I kind of agree with you that that's really their best option to lower the price. I do kind of like the idea of a handheld only Switch, even though it betrays the switching aspect of the whole Switch concept. That is the name of the console.
It does do that, and also if the Joy-Cons are attached, I think it stops a lot of the initial appeal of the Switch of where like, hey, you can play Mario Kart and you can take off the controllers and throw one to a friend and you can play together. Like, that's just not possible anymore if it is attached, unless you're both like holding the console at the same time, which I guess would be kind of weird to do with Mario Kart.
That would be a little weird. Just like, hey, like unless you had like a weird split screen type thing where your side of the screen is like right side up, and you're holding the screen where the Joy-Cons are at the bottom and the screen is kind of at the top from your point of view, and the other person is holding it the same way from their point of view, like it's the bottom from them, and the screen is like divided in half. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do.
Yeah.
Sounds so strange.
It sounds so strange. Like, I'll just imagine, like, you and me, like, playing this game. Just, like, hold the same switch. I'm looking at my screen. I'm looking at you. It would help, like, stop screen watching. Because, I mean, you could look, I guess, at the other person's screen to see what they're doing, but it would all be upside down. Like, it would be disorienting. You couldn't actually figure out what it is they're seeing or doing. So it's an idea, but I don't know how well that would actually work. Like, how
I would try it. I would hate to be the one that has to develop it.
Oh God, like, how does the game know that there are two people playing? Like, that would be so weird. Like, it's an interesting idea. I feel like that's something that they'd be like, wow, what an interesting idea. We'll definitely look into that. And it's like, oh, great. And then you leave the room and they'd be like, yeah, we are not doing that.
Yeah. I mean, I guess anything's possible.
Certainly. But, yeah, it would certainly be a challenge. There's a lot of challenges inherent with developing for the system, like in general, because you have to figure out how it's going to work handheld and how it's going to work docked. I mean, the people at Nintendo are very smart. Like they know what they're doing with this system. Obviously, I have full confidence in them. Like, they've had some slip ups before in the past, but I feel like most times they've taken risks, and a lot of times it's paid off for them. So I'm sure whatever revisions that they're ultimately going to implement in the Switch, whenever they do revise the Switch's design, I feel like they're going to be pretty good systems. They're going to be good changes.
Yeah, and there's also the possibility of the reverse of what we just said. Instead of a portable only Switch, maybe there's a console only Switch that just plugs into the TV, has a standard controller. Maybe it comes with the Pro controller or something instead of the Joy Cons, and it can only be played on TV for, I don't know, more serious gamers or something. It doesn't seem as likely as the other option, but I guess it's still a possibility.
Yeah, it's certainly an idea.
Yep, another great topic, another great episode, and that's going to do it for this week. Remember, Press It Repeatedly posts new episodes Tuesdays on iTunes, Google Play, Podbean, YouTube, and Spotify. If you like what you hear, please take a moment to rate and review the show, or tell your friends about us. It helps other people find the podcast and will really help us grow. And thank you to all who have rated, reviewed, and subscribed so far. We love you. You can follow us on our Facebook page or on Twitter and Instagram. We are at PAR_podcast. I'm at Oaf7724, and Chris is at Seagold113. You can email us any questions or comments at parpodcast@gmail.com. That's parpodcast@gmail.com. And don't forget to check us out over at pressarepeatedly.com. That's all for this week. Chris and Justin signing off. And remember to float gently towards the earth by waving a little raccoon tail. Press A repeatedly.